Well, hey y'all, how you doing? Everybody doing all right? Thank you so much for coming to my talk, Leadership Guide for the Reluctant Leader. And I'm so excited to be here. I'm just really grateful to have another opportunity to speak at an NDC conference, and I've had a terrific time so far. I hope you've had a great time with some of the sessions that you've been to and are learning and soaking up all kinds of good content and information. At my previous company, we had this thing about punching bears. It was all about doing hard things and generally being awesome. And it was part of our mantra. We would say, get out there and punch some bears today. In reality, punching bears is probably not such a great idea, as it will only provoke the bear to maul you to death, maybe a bit worse. So this has nothing to do with the talk I'm about to give. I just thought you'd like some free advice. Now, some of you, like me, are just so excited. You've been soaking up information here, going through all the different sessions, and you can't wait to get back to your workplace and just unleash all of your new knowledge onto your unsuspecting coworkers, right? Others of you may be feeling a bit overwhelmed. You're probably thinking, how in the world am I going to learn all this new stuff? How am I going to convince my boss to allow me to use any of this new technology that I've learned about? And, now I'm here to give you, throw some more stuff at you. So we could talk about, where I see technology going in the next 5 years, or, some new trends and so forth, but that would be about as accurate as the weather forecast. IoT is a really hot topic. We could talk about how we should be connecting everything in all our devices, everything in our homes to the cloud, and reaping all the benefits of a fully connected, distributed system of data collected from all of our peripherals. Or we could talk about the latest JavaScript framework that was created only yesterday, that's now the new standard, and you can just forget about everything that you've known or figured out by this point. But what if I told you that regardless of the technology that you know, regardless of the technology that you use, regardless of the job title that you have amazing potential to impact your workplace and your family, your community, and beyond in powerful and meaningful ways. So let's start off with a story. Allow me to indulge in a story about myself, maybe a cautionary tale, if you will. When I first got into my career, I was doing a mix of IT and programming, and I absolutely love solving problems and fixing things. I couldn't believe that I actually got paid to do the things that I got to do. Yes, really, really awesome. And I hope some of you get the reference there on yes. But a funny thing happened. I was promoted to a management position, and I absolutely hated it. All I wanted to do was to write code and to, put screws together and mount servers and, do whatever. And I'm an introvert, believe it or not. Leaving my desk to go and talk to other people and manage a team and try to get people to do stuff, it just wasn't even remotely in my nature. I resented the role and the responsibilities, and I did the bare minimum to get by. Within 18 months, I took a straight programming job making less money. And this cycle of being promoted to management and despair and changing jobs repeated itself several times. And my wife would ask me, "What do you have against making more money?" Well, it wasn't just about the money, right? It's my ideal job consisted of give me the most powerful computer, give me a virtual unlimited supply of caffeine, and stand back while I sling some code. Can I get an amen? Amen? Right, you know what I'm talking about. It wasn't until many years later, and through some mentoring and some training, and not to mention maybe a little bit of maturity, I began to realize that my attitude towards everything outside of just cranking out code needed an attitude adjustment. And so I've had to come to terms with being a leader. And I want to give you some things that I think that I've learned that maybe will help you along your journey as well. Now, you may think what I used to think, and that's leadership is only for management. That, and for the longest time, I didn't want to have anything to do with being in management. But leadership is not just for management. It's not to say that there aren't some aspects of, if you're a manager, you need to have leadership skills and have leadership abilities. But even if you're not in a management role, there are things that you can learn to where you can be a leader and be a person of influence and have respect for people and a number of things that can help you with your career and with your relationships with other developers and other people in your organization, and you can have great influence on folks. So what I'm here to tell you is that leadership is for all y'all. And if you're not familiar with the term all y'all, I'm from the U.S. in case you didn't notice. There's you, singular, one person. There's y'all, which refers to like 2, 3, 4, 5 people. And then when you mean everybody, you say all y'all. There are qualities and skills being a leader that we all need to learn. A few years ago, I was at my previous company. A group of us completed a 1-year leadership course at the Scarlet Leadership Institute in Nashville, Tennessee, and our group was named the Emerging Leaders. But every time I saw the title Emerging Leaders, I thought it looked more like Ermagerd. And so that's what I secretly called our group. I called us the Ermagerd Leaders. And every 6 weeks or so, we would get together off-site at a training facility, and we would learn a core leadership skill. We learned about things like team dynamics, resolving conflict, public speaking, communication, lots and lots of things. And I highly, highly recommend this type of program or something similar to it if you can find it. If you want to grow leaders and potential managers and all those kinds of things in your organization, you've got to equip your people to be able to fill those kinds of roles, because there's skills and things that a lot of us coming from a development background, we have no desire at all to want to learn those skills. We want to focus on technology and learning the new and shiny bits and just interact with our computers, right? So one of those, to give you an example, one of those core leadership skills that we learned about is negotiation. And we role-played in this particular training session. We broke up into groups of teams, and we learned in the form of like some legal case documentation, a summary of our side of the story, what we knew about the other side of the story, maybe some tactical information about how we would negotiate, and each round of this role playing taught us specific skills and tactics for negotiation. We learned things like the importance of doing research so that you not only know all the information you can about what you're negotiating for, but more about who you're negotiating with. The importance of your BATNA, which is your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. This helps you to know when you should walk away from a deal. When a deal is no longer, as good as what you can get somewhere else, then you can walk away from that deal. And also the importance of things like anchoring. Usually the first person who throws out a solution or an idea of what the negotiation ought to be, that the whole conversation around that negotiation is anchored from that starting point, and you have a lot of advantage for the rest of the negotiation if you're the one that can be the first to offer a solution. Now, at the end of the day, our instructor cautioned us that the negotiation skills that we had learned were extremely powerful and that we should only use our new powers for good and not for evil. Right. So, about a month later, I found myself in the market for a new vehicle. I did my research. I knew what I wanted. I understood all the options that were available, and I knew what to expect from my adversary. And I knew that I could walk away from a deal that wasn't as good as my BATNA, my best alternative to a negotiated agreement. An opportunity presented itself the day that I had to go to the dentist. A used truck that I was interested in showed up on at a dealership, and I thought, well, while I'm out, I will stop by on my way back home and check out this truck. Once I got there and I got out of my car, I don't even think my first foot had hit the ground. One of their sharks was right on top of me. "What brings you in today?" And, because that's the way we talk there. And I said, "Well, I just finished with a dentist appointment, and I stopped here because I'm interested in one of your trucks." He said, "Buddy, research shows that there's two things people hate doing the most, and that's going to the dentist and buying a new car. You're doing both in the same day. You must be tough." Indeed I am. When we got to his office, he made the mistake of letting me make the first strike. And that helped to anchor the deal with a number that I was confident, based on my research, that was near their bottom line. And I had lots more firepower from my training at my disposal. And after the dust had settled, I had the exact truck that I wanted, and I knew I could turn right around and sell that truck for at least $2,000 more than what I just paid for it. Walking away knowing you get a good deal, that's an incredible feeling. Negotiation is a leadership skill that you definitely need in your life, not just for the workplace. But in the case of the workplace, being able to negotiate on behalf of your team, behalf of your organization, either internally or externally, that's a huge win for you to have that kind of skill to make a difference for your coworkers. One of the books our leadership group went through was The Ideal Team Player by Patrick Lencioni. Highly recommend this book. In this book, he talks about 3 virtues that every leader or every great employee must possess. This book can not only help you identify and hire the best employees, but like for me, it got me thinking about how I can, what were my deficiencies? How did I line up with these 3 virtues, and what could I do to improve myself so that I could be an ideal team player? The first and probably the most important virtue is humility, and I've got loads of that. The humility is having no ego, and characteristics are, not being really concerned about your own status, caring more about your team than you do yourself, and eager to share the credit when the credit is, with those that you work with. Humility, as described in the book, however, is a spectrum. At one end of the spectrum, we've got the opposite of humility. We've got people who are arrogant and self-centered, and there are politicians who create division and resentment throughout your organization or your team. And on the other end of the spectrum, you've got someone who almost appears to be humble, but who can be just as damaging. They discredit their own talents and their value to the team, and the worst thing is they won't point out problems when they see them because they feel like their opinion doesn't matter. This is really where I fell on the end of the spectrum. I really felt like I didn't have that much to contribute. And so I didn't speak up at times when I should have spoken up. One of my favorite authors, C.S. Lewis, had this to say about humility. The heart of being humble is unselfish motivation for your team and your customers. And when you truly want the best outcome for your team and for everyone around you, you are acting with humility. The second virtue is hungry. Unfortunately, this is not referring to food. I would pass that with flying colors. Now, hungry is about passion and taking ownership of work. Again, there's a kind of a spectrum of behavior. On one end, you have someone whose life is dominated by their work and to the detriment of everything and everyone around them. Now, we definitely don't want to be that kind of driven person. And on the other end, we have someone who has no motivation, no passion. They're doing the bare minimum to get by. They probably have a really limp handshake, right? You don't want those fishy kind of people. You don't want to be one of those fishy kind of people. So what we need is to strike a balance of being both passionate about the work that we do that is manageable and sustainable. And then last is a virtue of being smart. This is not about intelligence. This is about common sense regarding the people around you. It's about, you may have heard the term emotional intelligence or emotional IQ. This is characterized by things like active listening, being engaged and asking good questions in your group, being sensitive of how your words and how your actions affect other people, and having empathy for your coworkers and your customers. To sum up, it's just having respect for the people that you work with and the people that you work for. Now, every important session, presentation has to include a Venn diagram, right? It's just an unwritten rule. And so this leadership presentation isn't worth squat unless I give you a Venn diagram, and you can't stop me. So humility and passion, empathy, sensitivity, respect for people, all these are choices that you can make, things that you can develop in your own life. And by doing so, you not only become an indispensable employee, you become a leader. You become someone that other people will look to and aspire to and want to be more like. You become a leader. Did you know that different people have different personalities? Yeah. People have different behaviors. They have different ways of looking at the world, and the way they process information, the way they make decisions, and how they respond to conflict. Our industry attracts people with, let's say, suboptimal people skills. We can be productive and get quite far in our careers just on our technical skills alone. Most of us, including myself, and especially in the past, are far more comfortable, communicating with our computer than dealing with the irrational, emotional waters of dealing with people around us, right? So there are many behavior and personality assessments that are available that can help you to get insight into how you can, insight into yourself and into other personalities, other people. My favorite so far that I've come across is DISC. DISC stands for a bunch of words I don't know. I don't remember what they are, but it's a really awesome program, just trust me. But what this does by going through an assessment like this is that these personality traits can provide insight into behaviors and, being able to understand some people are action-oriented, some people are people-focused, some people are reserved, some are focused around tasks. Now, there's no, this is not science. This is not, 100% guarantee or accurate. But something like DISC can help you to understand your team, how each person prefers to receive information, how they process information, how they prefer to communicate and receive that. It's a fantastic tool to help you understand people that are different from yourself. And it's a fantastic tool to help you to understand yourself. For example, some people are really deep thinkers, and they don't like big surprises. Going into a meeting and having a big change announced and then immediately expecting that person to give you feedback and get their input, that's not how they like to operate. They need time to process new information and to formulate an opinion and give their feedback. Now, we need people who are active and take charge and are gung-ho and can react immediately to situations, but we also need people who can think deeply about problems and who can come up with long-term solutions, well thought out solutions that keep our gung-ho people grounded. Understanding behavior and personalities can go a long way to helping you empathize with your coworkers. And it also gives you tools and information and knowledge about how to best communicate with other peoples of other personalities so that you can be a person of influence. And a better understanding of your own behavior can help you to develop your own strategies for your workplace. Just being able to articulate to your manager, hey, this is how I like to process information. This is how I'd like for you to communicate with me. That can make a huge difference because maybe you weren't able to articulate that before. Learning how other people process information, communicate, and how they respond to conflict puts you in an amazing position of being a person of influence and leadership. What's your greatest weakness? Don't you just love that question? You'll be in a job interview or performance review, and you know the question's coming, right? And so you try to come up with something clever. Like, well, my greatest weakness is I work too hard. I can't help it. I just have to get things done on time. It's a curse, I suppose. Well, another powerful tool is the Strengths Finder. This book and assessment is the result of years and years of study and tens of thousands of surveys performed by Gallup. Each one of you has unique talents and knowledge and skills, and the Strengths Finder is designed to help you to discover or identify your top 5 gifts, help you to maximize those gifts. According to this book and the research, is that focusing a lot of time on our weaknesses and only will, the result is that you may be mediocre at best. You're not going to be too excited about focusing on your weaknesses. When you're not able to use your strengths at work, chances are you're going to dread going to work. You're going to have more negative interactions with the people you work with. You're going to achieve less than you want to, and you have fewer creative moments. When we're able to focus on our strengths, we're in an environment where we're empowered to use our top strengths, you will be 100% more likely to be actively engaged. And again, this is another awesome tool that can help you and your team together to unlock and unleash a lot of potential that you have, and help how your strengths complement each other and how you can really target your work to maximize those strengths. Let's talk about multitasking. Our culture seems to be fixated on multitasking. We put it in our job descriptions, must be a good multitasker. And we put it on our resumes, best multitasker ever. And the truth is, none of us are as good at multitasking as we think we are, no matter how hard we try to convince ourselves. Our industry talks a lot about maximizing our our utilization. Like every employee needs to be 100% utilized. We can't be wasting time. But let me ask you, what's a highway at 100% utilization? Yeah, it's a parking lot. And it's not just my opinion, it's math. It's true for traffic, it's true for fluid dynamics, it's true for electricity, it's also true for people. Kids love going to the zoo, or to the circus, rather. Big kids, us grown-ups, we enjoy it too. Exciting to see the lion tamer get in the cage with the lion and convince the lion not to maul him to death. That's cool. Now, the whip is awesome. It's like Indiana Jones kind of thing. But the whip does nothing for the lion. The whip is for the audience. Well, what's up with the chair? Lions have incredible powers of focus. It's what helps them to be predators in the wild, help them to survive. When you put the four legs of a chair in a lion's face, the lion can't decide which of those four legs to focus on. And so, in essence, the lion becomes paralyzed with indecision. And we are much the same way. When we have too many tasks on our plate, our brains become overloaded. We think we can switch from task to task, but our brains, in actuality, don't stop thinking about those things, those problems. It's causing mental overload or mental stress without us even realizing it. How many times have you gone to sleep and woke up the next day and realized, oh, well, that's how to solve that problem? That's because our brains don't stop thinking about it. It haunts us even as we sleep. Our subconscious does not stop thinking about the problems and the tasks that we face, the things that we do. And that may sound counterintuitive, but do everything in your power to limit your work to one thing at a time. You'll get more work done and you'll do it faster than trying to juggle too many things at once. I submit to you that there are three inevitable things in life. There's death, taxes, and there's PowerPoint. Sooner or later, it's going to happen. Whether it's speaking to your team or to your organization at a meetup or maybe even a conference, you're going to stand in front of a group of people, some of them which are complete strangers, and you're going to have to present some information. In 2011, I finally got up the courage to give my first talk at a meetup, and I stank. I was terrible. But a funny thing happened. I had people thank me for sharing. I had people tell me that I did a good job. I had people tell me to my face that I did a good job. Although I was certain that I was the worst speaker in speaker history. It took a while for it to sink in, but I learned a really valuable lesson about the power of community. There are people out there who are just really good at being human. People who will look past your mistakes, and they see the good and potential that is in you, and they encourage you to not give up. Because when we do hard things like share information as a presentation, everybody benefits. I hope that every day I'm a little bit more like one of those kinds of people who are seeing value in others and encouraging them to share what they've learned and their journeys. Here's one of my favorite quotes. When I gave my first talk, people didn't remember how I fumbled around with some global ASAX or configuration issue or something that caused my demos to fail. They remembered me, and they remembered that even in some small way, I made a difference in their life or in their career. I helped them to learn something. In 2016, I had the privilege of giving a keynote at a conference called Music City Code in Nashville, Tennessee. And I shared the same story about how I got started. And I had more than one person come up to me afterwards and say, I remember, I was there when you gave your first talk. And you're right, you were terrible. Now you might be thinking, I can understand being asked or volunteered or voluntold to speak. Why would I voluntarily choose to get up in front of people and speak? That's terrifying. And I totally get it. It terrifies me every time I get up to give a talk. But let me tell you, having someone not only understand your message, but then to be inspired to actually go and do that thing that you're talking about, to get that kind of feedback from someone is one of the most rare and precious gifts I have ever experienced. To know that in some way I affected someone, that they went on to try whatever it is that I was talking about. And usually the stories that come back are like, yeah, that thing you were talking about, I went and did this whole other thing with it. It's like something I would have never imagined that was possible. It's really, really powerful. Public speaking is an amazing skill that you can learn that will set you apart and open doors and opportunities. And I could go on and on about the benefits of public speaking, how it's launched me on all kinds of trajectories in my career and so forth. But it can launch you ahead as a leader and an influencer in your organization and your community. I can't recommend it enough. Have you heard of the Dilbert Principle? The most ineffective workers are systematically promoted to where they do the least amount of damage. Management. So early in my career, I worked under a manager who exemplified the Dilbert Principle. I really didn't like the man, personally or professionally, and his incompetence was legendary. He was notoriously bad. Mistakes were named after him. And yet he still continued to rise in rank and responsibility. And a lot of the work that I was required to do under his direction was of no value to anyone. For example, I was asked to create a huge binder of documentation of every stored procedure, every method in the code that we were writing. No one was going to read this, ever. Meaningless and pointless work is soul-crushing. I toughed it out for more than a year, and I tried to find ways to get out from under him, but with no hope and no relief in sight, I found another job. And I said to myself, I resolved that life is too short to work somewhere that stinks. And I started living by that philosophy, and I offered it as advice to others when I heard them complaining about their workplaces. In technology, we have this incredible privilege that we are in such high demand that we can choose to go and get another job if we want to. That isn't the case in every profession. The problem is, this idea began to pollute my thinking and my perspective. When things started to go sour, I would say, oh, great, here we go again, time to find another job. And years later, I was in a similar situation. I wasn't happy. I started interviewing at other companies, and I had 2 attractive job offers on the table, and I was trying to decide what I was going to do. And that's when my wife asked me a couple of questions that stopped me in my tracks. Have you done everything that you can do? And if you left now, would you have any regrets? Fine. I declined the job offer. I took ownership of the situation, and I committed to doing everything in my power to make my team successful. In the end, I left that job 1 year later, but I left not proud of the work that we had accomplished. It had been one of the most productive and prolific years in my career. And I had such a bond with the people that I worked with. Now, sure, there can be toxic environments, career-limiting situations, amazing opportunities that come along that justify changing a job. But for everything else, I've adopted a new mindset. I believe that life is too short to let things stay the way they are. We've heard the phrase, well, that's not my job. Well, maybe it is your job. Maybe taking ownership and responsibility is the right thing to do. And it has far-reaching effects. I've learned that it's okay to be honest with the people that you work with, to say, what can we do to fix this problem? To talk to your management, to have hard conversations, to say, what can I do to help? It's always the right time to do the right thing. And in doing so, in stepping up and taking ownership and ensuring that things get done the way they ought to be done, you become a leader. You become an influence, someone that people admire and look up to. Now, every now and again, we have to say goodbye to people that we work with, really good ones. Regardless of the circumstances, we let them know how much they are appreciated and how we're going to miss them. And sometimes we throw a party and tell stories about how, what kind of impact they've made on our workplace. Like, hey, remember that time when at lunch when Julie made you laugh so hard that milk shot out of your nose? That was awesome. I'm really going to miss you and milk shooting out of your nose. So one day it struck me, after some good folks had left the company that I was at, why can't we express our appreciation all the time? Why do we have to wait until someone's leaving to let them know how awesome they are? Why can't we, encourage them in that way? Maybe if we had told them how much they were appreciated and how much they were valued, they wouldn't be looking for another job. So I started to run an experiment And every Friday, I would write a short tribute to someone that I worked with, describing their awesome contribution to the organization. In this example, Nakota was our customer support manager. And as someone described, he did the work of 10,000 men. He consistently went above and beyond the call of duty to make our customers happy. And he is awesome. Now, the drawing that I would create wasn't that important. It was just something fun that I like to do. And what I said about that person usually wasn't all that earth-shattering. It wasn't, all that fantastic. The real magic, now get this, the real magic was what everyone else said throughout the day. Story after story, encouragement, high fives. It was absolutely beautiful. And all I did was just start the conversation. This experiment lasted for about a year, and I had so many people come to me and tell me how special it was to be honored and celebrated by their peers in this way. You see, every one of us wants to know that the things we do matter, that our work has value, and that we have value. Encouragement highlights a person's strengths and is a positive reinforcement of that behavior. What is it they want to go do now? They want to go do more of that stuff that got them recognized for being awesome. They want to keep that feeling of making a difference and making an impact. If you know me, you know I can't go very long without talking about bacon. So I submit to you the highest award for excellence. When you encourage someone, feel free to use this image. When you encourage someone or a team of people, they will continue to improve and create amazing results. And the interesting thing is they go on to inspire others to do those things. And those people go on to inspire even more. It's a chain reaction. It's a vicious cycle of encouragement. That's what we want. Now, I grew up in a dysfunctional family. There wasn't a whole lot of encouragement being shared. So encouragement for me just doesn't come natural. It's yet another skill that I've had to learn. It's something that you can learn too. Here, I'll give you an example. Imagine you have a coworker named Mary. You go up to Mary and you say, "Mary, I want you to know how much I appreciate all the database work that you do for our team. Not only that, but you're always smiling and being cheerful. You are such an encouragement to me and the people that work with you. Thank you so much." Paul, thank you for always being willing to help. I know I can count on you to help me with whatever problem that I'm stuck on. It means a lot to me. You are awesome. Mark, thank you for always wearing deodorant. And coming to work fully dressed. Keep it up, buddy. See, it's not that hard. Don't wait. If there's someone who you know that has impacted you in some way, either in the past or recently, let them know about it. Don't wait until it's too late. Now, don't you wish you could just fast forward to the future where you got it all together and you have it all mastered? Yeah, the reality is there's no shortcut to success. We get out of life in proportion to the work we put into it. Now, I'm telling you all these things about leadership, not so that you can go back to your workplace and start pointing fingers at like, you're not doing it right. Well, if I was in charge, things would be different around here. No, I'm telling you these things so that you can take a hard look at yourself and try to figure out what is it that I can do to make an impact on the people around me? How can I be more of a person of influence? How can I be someone who is encouraging and having a positive impact? What changes can I make to become the most valuable employee this company has ever had? Or what changes can I make to make my team the most valuable team that this organization has ever had? If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, or become more, you are a leader. So said President Mutton Chops. Awesome facial hair, dude. None of those things, inspire, dream, learn, none of those things require you to be a manager or to have a fancy title. I have one more story I want to share with you. Thanksgiving 1982. Now, I know you probably don't celebrate Thanksgiving here, but in the U.S., Thanksgiving is one of our, honored celebrations of giving thanks for the things that we have. And in my family, my mother's family, it was a tradition for us to all get together at my aunt's house about 2 hours away from where we lived. And this particular Thanksgiving, we all got in the car, and my mom drove us to my aunt's house. And there at my aunt and uncle's house, my cousin had one of these, a TRS-80. This thing, I don't know if I spent the entire day at this computer, at this amazing device connected to a TV, but it certainly made an impression on my uncle, because sometime after Thanksgiving, we got back in my mom's car and we drove 2 hours and to my aunt's house, and there waiting for me was a cardboard box with a TRS-80, a cassette drive, a floppy drive, a dot matrix printer, and this book. This one kind and very generous act launched me on a journey of computers and programming and a love for technology. Even the illustrations in this book surely inspired me, because it's something that has resonated with me for the rest of my life. If I ever write a book, you can be sure it's going to be full of silly illustrations. I continue to be inspired by my aunt and uncle's example of not only investing in their own family, but in countless lives of others. And I can't thank them enough for the impact that they've had on my life and my career, that's led to this opportunity to be able to stand up in front of a group of fellow geeks like myself who probably have a lot of the same stories that I have, and be able to have an impact on other people. You have an amazing opportunity to impact your family and your workplace and your community. You never know if some relatively small act of kindness or a word of encouragement or a small investment of your time could be the catalyst that launches a young person or a person of any age on a lifelong journey of exploration, joy, and even their livelihood. So this is my challenge to you, that regardless of the technology that you know, regardless of your age or years of experience or lack of experience, regardless of the job title you have amazing potential to impact your workplace and your family, your community, and the entire world in significant, positive, and meaningful ways. Go maximize your talents. Go take ownership and responsibility. Go be courageous. Go inspire others. Go and be awesome. Thank you. I'd be glad to take any questions that you have. If you would, all I ask is that you come up and ask me here and allow everyone else to go on with the rest of the sessions. If you are interested, I have some of my silly stickers up here. Come grab one there. Feel free. So enjoy the rest of your conference.